Welcome back to Media 7. We're discussing the greening of the media with Cedo Kitchen, Vincent Heringer and Clive Matthew Wilson. Now, we decided that as the spectre of global warming looms, it would be useful to send out Simon Pound to take the public temperature.
I think people are a bit like me, they don't know quite what to do.
I think it is a problem.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. We're all living in a gas house.
I'm only a teenager, I don't know anything.
Not global warming. I reckon it's... Do you guys believe in the Bible? Man's got some sort of effrontery to think they're creating a lot of this stuff.
They won't be here when it all really comes to a head.
I don't really see global warming as such a problem yet because it's so not going to affect us in our time.
That's selfish. We're all going to die, we're going to fry.
The ice cap's going to melt and we're going to get flooded.
We're all going to drown.
The world's in peril! What's to be done?
What am I doing? Well, we've stopped using our dryer at the flat.
I'm trying to go green.
Well, I try not to use lots of plastic bags. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Catching buses, walking, not leaving my phone charger on all night.
Turn all the lights off, never have them on really.
I'm not doing anything, to be honest with you.
Simon Pound with that report. Vincent, there were some confused people there. Is this evidence of a communication failure? Is it unique to New Zealand? Because people really didn't seem to know what was going on and what they should do.
Where there's a communication failure is a media opportunity, Russell. We all know that. So when we launched Good, we anticipated that it would be a niche business magazine, and when we looked at the consumer numbers produced by people like Nielsen, for instance, we found that there was a huge appetite for how do I do something about climate change? I want to do something.
But I sometimes get the impression that people are doing something, but they're not doing something that's doing what they think it is. I mean, for example, lots of people in your magazine see they're also talking about, I'm eating organic. Well, that's not actually going to have much impact on climate change,
No,
is it?
that's right. And there's a huge amount of conscience salving that goes on through environmental behaviour. In fact, someone described them as the new Victorians, and I think that's not a bad description. But I think the point, if we're looking for a positive, small changes can make a difference. And it comes back to that idea of rewarding good behaviour, punishing bad behaviour as consumers.
Now, to be fair to you, see, there was some quite neat stuff. You had Wendell Nissen with her homemade cleaning products. So there's almost a desire there, apart from any pressing environmental challenge, to maybe go back and do something simpler and do things by hand.
It's definitely a big message, is to keep it simple. Yeah. She's not a green nut, but we've had so much feedback about those recipes. She just had one or two in the magazine and she would get inundated with emails asking for more. So that's why we put them in the middle of the mag as a pull-out.
And there's more to it than just green. There's something about being consumerist that a lot of people are feeling filthy about, and they want to do something to kind of address this need to go out and shop. Can I grow something? Can I make something for a change? And there's this whole revolution in DIY that's happening as well. People want to feel like they're not just having to go to the mall and shop.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the advertisements from Phoenix Organics that say don't drink science. What's that message about? This seems to be, a really
Well, if you ask me, I think
it's
a bloody terrible message,
yeah.
and I don't get it. What is it with the anti-science thing? Isn't science? I mean, Clive probably has a view on this too. Isn't science the very thing that's going to get us out of this mess? More technology, not less, please.
Except that for most of the 20th century, and certainly for this time that we've just had in this century, science has moved from being a servant to a master. Everything's done because it's scientifically justified, never mind that it's a crap environment. Those crap apartment blocks that are covering Auckland are scientifically proven to be a very efficient way of housing, but thanks, I don't want to live in the Soviet Union. I don't think most people do. I think what Phoenix is doing is a cynical commercial exploitation of that. But the fact remains that, there is a really strong feeling out there that science has got, as I said, it hasn't got all the answers. It's a great servant and a very poor master.
Is there anything else that gets on your nerves, Clive?
Well, the reality is one of the great ways that the West squanders energy is to sit in traffic jams as empty trains roll by.
But I sort of wonder whether that's not just because that's one thing we can understand, or that this car uses less petrol. Because, who understands the emissions trading scheme?
But we're not talking about the emissions trading scheme.
Yeah, not me.
We're not this morning.
Just a moment. We're not talking about the emissions trading scheme. We're talking about a national and a political direction which creates the total nonsense, that it's going to be possible to maintain the current lifestyle using alternative technology. Now, I have the luxury of having had until very recently a full-time researcher who's checked most of the facts that people are quoting time and time again. And it was, of course, the Dog and Lemon Guide that first exposed the scam of the hybrid car. They're not particularly economic, and there's plenty of diesel vehicles that use less fuel.
You're saying a lot of this stuff is tokenism.
Well, you've got
that's a hard message to sell in the media.
I'm all for, composting your own vegetables and that sort of stuff, and I'm all for little things, like I walk up to the cafe at the end of the road and have a coffee instead of taking my car. These things do help. When you've got 6.5 billion people on the planet, you really can make changes that way. But also, let's look at a national level. Let's look at the way that the business community is promoting this idea of green that basically means the same system run on biofuels, except that if you'd read your Dog and Lemon Guide 2 years ago, you'd have known that biofuels are basically a scam. Many of them use more energy than the fuel that they produce at the end, and much of this is produced using fossil fuels.
So Vincent's doing something different, though.
Well, I think the answer is more media, not less. To get arguments such as what Clive has talked about, I don't know if he's right or not, but articulating that message in the media is the way to get that
Because I actually wanted to hear from you about your carbon neutral magazine. What does that mean? How does it work? Who can do it?
Well, everyone can do it. The idea behind carbon neutrality is that you enter a program with a third party that keeps you honest to reduce as much of your emissions as you can, and where you can't or where you choose not to, you then go and buy Kyoto approved or government approved offsetting credits that at least bring your carbon emission activity down to a zero level.
I still don't really understand it.
I think that's the problem. It's also bamboozling, it's also confusing, and that's what I thought for my readers. I thought the green issues out there are so overwhelming. To be honest, it's just completely confusing. I've tried to make it very simple.
The point is there isn't one answer. The point is that we're in a incredible period of change. And one of the kind of really disappointing things about where we are with the media at the moment, if we talk about the media, I know that we're talking about ourselves, is it's really frustrating that the things that are important are not the things discussed. And the emissions trading scheme actually will set an agenda for the way we do business for the next probably 20 or 30 years.
This is actually a big problem. NZI this week publishes a survey that looks to me like nonsense. It's a self-selected internet survey. It gets treated like news by the grown-up media.
Yes.
What are you going to do about that?
Yes, or Brittany makes it to the front page, or Tony Veach. Frankly, it's just not good enough to have these kind of levels of discussion about things that have a massive importance. Now, the issue is, and the problem is that they're boring, right? It's very difficult to deal with this stuff. It's complex, it's boring, but someone in the media needs to do it. And at the moment, like the emission trading scheme, it's solely the discussion of business commentators. Well, that's not good enough.
Let me simplify the emissions trading scheme. It's like the medieval Catholic Church where a rich man would go and sleep with a prostitute and then put a few gold coins in the poor box.
Both benefit.
And on that note, I think we'll take a break and we'll be back afterwards to bag it all up.